let's get into the stars of this series, right? We got Tyrese Haliburton, Jalen Brunson. Those guys are going to be the headliner. That's what the league is going to be using to promote the series, and it's an definitely an intriguing matchup. For you, Joe, what do you think about the Haliburton series against Cleveland, and how do you think the Knicks will try to contain him?
So the Cavs used Max Strus on Tyrese. Much bigger body, 6'6", pretty thick guy. But part of that was, the Cavs try to hide Darius Garland or whoever's playing in his place defensively. Ty Jerome was another candidate there. So they were trying to move that guy off of Tyrese. The Knicks, I feel like, are more versatile with their starting lineup here as far as how they can deal with Haliburton. He was all right. Obviously he hit the great shot to win game 2. He had struggled up until that point. They sort of all caught their wind by game 4, and then game 5 they came back from a nice little early hole. So, Tyrese is doing fine. Pascal Siakam had a great series. Miles Turner had a very strong series. And then I really respect Nemhard and Naismith too. He was nice, but I do like the sort of the switchability and the versatility in the Knicks starting lineup. I covered the Team USA team where Steve Kerr was playing Josh Hart at the 4. Which I actually think could help them a little bit in this series, if they ask Josh to guard up a little bit. So, love the versatility among the Knicks starters, but it comes back. I know we're talking about that one singular player with Haliburton, but I'm just wondering if once you get past 5-on-5, how do the Knicks keep up with, playing one or two other guys?
Sure. No, it's I'm sure Tom Thibodeau is probably thinking about that right now and going through the scenarios. And also with Jalen Brunson, I mean, he's going to have to deal with a strong defender in Aaron Nesmith. I know.
Yes.
I think he got labeled the Brunson stopper in some corners because of the postseason when they put Nesmith on Brunson. Brunson had a tough time. If you look at one of those regular season games, I think Brunson just came out roaring with Nesmith on him. I don't know if he had a point he wanted to prove or not, but he did play well against Nesmith in this regular season. So, Dex, for you, if you were kind of scheming things out and you're Indiana, how do you try to slow Jalen down?
I think they're going to try to have to pick him up full court. I think that's it. Try to get the ball out of his hands. Can you blitz him? Even if you don't go full court, do you want to blitz him as soon as he gets across half court? You want to make another Knicks player have to become the playmaker. And for a lot of times, that's been Josh Hart for the Knicks. Is he the valve and release guy that you want there? So I think you're going to see a lot of traps on Jalen Brunson as soon as he gets over half court. I think if you try to pick him up full court, get the ball out of his hands. So the Knicks, who have a habit, and you know this, Ian, started getting their offense started a lot later in the shot clock. I think if that happens for the Pacers, that's advantageous for them. So I think you're going to see waves of defenders at Brunson. I think you will see Nesmith, if we're going to call him the Brunson stopper, to see if he can do it again here in the playoffs. But with Brunson, I think you're right, Ian. I think that was the first game you were referencing when they played the Pacers this season. I wonder how much he takes that personally, how much he's motivated by, obviously, as we talked about what happened last year in the playoffs. So I think you'll see waves of defenders, and we have to respect the defenders from the Pacers who've been very good throughout this postseason. And I think you'll see a lot of the guards will try to throw at him, even some bigger players I think you could see as well thrown at him at times. But Jalen Brunson is going to get a lot of looks, and I think it's going to be to get the ball out of his hands early in the shot clock.
And Joe, for you, the bigs, Cat, Mitchell Robinson, and Miles Turner, what are your thoughts there on the front line, and how does it play out down there?
So there was that play in the Knicks, and I think it was game 6, where Mitchell was in the corner bothering Jalen Brown to no end. And the Cavs rave about the versatility of Jared Allen, but I didn't see him Jarrett was not able to impact that series, especially as the series wore on. So Mitchell Robinson is substantially bigger, I would say nastier than Jarrett, and and if he's going to be able to move his feet like that out on the perimeter, that will impact the series. The Pacers are one of those like actual 5-out teams. Miles Turner can shoot threes. So, you have to be able to stay on the floor. You have to be able to get out there. So Mitchell's going to have to do that. But he seemed pretty comfortable with it. I also, I've been thinking a lot about Cat. I really liked him at times in the Celtics series. I think he has a chance here. He's going to be going up against an all-star in Siakam, who beat up on Evan Mobley pretty well. So I think that maybe the series actually swings on these matchups. The Pacers really enjoyed an advantage as this last series wore on in the front court, and it comes down to, are the Knicks guys nasty enough to keep up? And that's what we're going to find out.
Yeah, I'm curious too, Joe. Like, we've seen teams, Detroit, Boston, put a smaller player on Karl Anthony Towns and put the center on Josh Hart and kind of let the center roam and be a help defender where the center needed, and sort of double at Towns if they needed to do that. And so I wonder if that continues here in the Indiana series. Do you take a guy like Nesmith or Nembhard and put him on Cat and then muck things up there? It was interesting. I was listening to, this was a really, really good breakdown of the series. Knicks Film School, they did a show with Caitlin Cooper, who's all over the Pacers. And she said she actually thought initially Miles Turner would be matched up against Karl Anthony Towns, so the Pacers would do something different and go traditional where other teams had not done that. So that's something I'm keeping an eye out for early on. But Dexter, when you look at, the rest of the Knicks that we haven't talked a lot about yet, OG Anunoby, obviously Miles Bridges, excuse me, Mikal Bridges, and the rest of the cast, who do you think is the X factor here? Who could swing this series?
For me, it's going to be Mikal Bridges because I think the matchup for him, if he's guarding Haliburton early on in this game, I think it's a really good matchup for him just because of his length. We know Haliburton, a tall player at 6'5", very funky release, but is so effective scoring. I think what he can do on defense. And I think the reason I say that also is, Ian, when you look at how well Bridges has played defensively throughout this postseason, he's been tremendous. He's been doing all the things we didn't see from him consistently throughout the regular season, and that's fighting over screens, not shying away from contact on the defensive end. And then he's got the confidence on the offensive end, right? Hitting a lot of shots late. He's been a clutch player for the Knicks throughout this postseason. He's had a lot of big moments, obviously 2 big defensive moments in games 1 and 2 against the Celtics. So the reason, because of his two-way ability and then the confidence level we've seen rise with this guy throughout the playoffs, I think that's why he's an X factor for me. But when you add all the guys here, Ian, Wingstop is going to have to be Wingstop, right? They're going to have to deliver here in the postseason, this matchup against the Pacers. But I think Bridges leading the way in the way he's been playing, I got him as the X factor among those 3 guys.
I think he's been the most important, Nick, to borrow an award from college. I think that for everything you said, Dexter, for those reasons. And it seems like, too, he just, whatever it takes to win, I think that's his mindset. I mean, he said it in the playoffs. He said it in the regular season. But it seems like he's really playing that way, sacrificing his body, going 1,000% all the time. And it's interesting to me that when early fourth quarter now, you see the ball in Bridges' hands when Brunson takes a rest, and Bridges has been doing really well in that spot. You go back to that Boston game, his play, I believe it was game 2, fourth quarter, was key. He helped bring them back. And so that early fourth quarter, Bridges with the ball in his hands has been really impactful for New York so far. Let's see how it goes in Indy.